All right. Everybody, welcome to the 2026 MAC League Coaches Meeting for our Babe Ruth division. This year we have just a juniors division, not a seniors division. So we'll be focusing on the rules on the juniors side. Um, there's a relatively light attendance tonight, so please feel free to keep it interactive. If you have questions, feel free to stop me. I don't have a problem with that. I'm happy to have the conversation about answering questions as we go along. If you don't want to interrupt me while we're going, that's totally fine. You can put it in the chat, or you can wait till the end and I'll save for questions there as well. But let's get rolling. All right. Quick view. These are all the different towns that are in the MAC League. Not all of these are participating in the juniors division this year, but there are a few of them out there this year. We'll move on. Quick note, we are having a summer and a fall season for all divisions. This is supposed to also be for the Babe Ruth program as well. So if you are looking to have your kids play in the summer or the fall, we are looking to put programs together for those divisions. So it should be available. You should hear from your division coordinators sometime soon about that. All right. Here's some important dates. April 27th, the games will be beginning. So this is going to be a little bit of a unique change this year. We did back up the season from what it was last year. We had a lot of negative feedback on the season going too late last year, so we backed it up to match the younger divisions. So we'll go from April 22nd to June 21st. Now, if you note, that's 8 weeks and not six. So what we've done is we've scheduled 6 weeks worth of games at 2 games per week, but that leaves 2 weeks between the end of season and playoffs. Now, what that means is you have 2 extra weeks to try to get your games in. So there is obviously at this age level, it's much harder to try to get games in. There's field issues, there's kid issues, coaching issues. So we gave basically a 2 week buffer. In the event that we don't need the buffer, we will bump up the playoffs to be earlier. So if you can try to get your games in the 6 weeks, great. But if you can't, then we will be planning on a June 22nd to July 3rd single elimination playoffs. That's a 2 week span. The reality is we don't need 2 weeks to get through the few teams that we have for playoffs, so we'll probably be done in a week. So it should be, my hope is we'll be well done before July. That's the goal. So let's see, weekday games will remain at 5:45. The schedule is fully posted on the MAC site, so you should be able to go out there and see anything that you're looking for as far as scheduling goes. Moving on, a couple of important things. So this is the second year of the MAC League doing the Babe Ruth level. So things to remember, this isn't Central Mass Baseball or Minuteman or high school federation rules. This is the MAC League. MAC is a recreational league. The rules are here are designed to be a recreational program. So just keep that in mind and when you figure out what you're looking at for the rules. So just don't make assumptions saying, oh, well, these kids are high school, it should be high school rules or anything like that. So we go by the Babe Ruth rules with some modifications on top of them. They are relatively the exact same modifications that we have for the younger divisions as far as play goes. So you should be able to, if your kids have been playing in the MAC for many years, you shouldn't have any problems understanding the type of rules that we have for this level. All right. So speaking of rules, here's where the rules are located, and I will do a walkthrough on the website at the end of the presentation. So you will find a couple of different things. You'll find a general rule. These are the more administrative rules that are not necessarily there for gameplay. Then you've got your juniors rules, which are going to be your gameplay rules, and then any special rules for the playoffs. We will be going through the playoff rules when we go to the website because there are some very specific things that are changing this year based on how the playoffs went last year. If you do not have an actual copy of the Babe Ruth rules, I recommend you get a copy of it from Human Kinetics. You'll be able to download that. Remember, that is the fallback if the rules are not specifically called out in the MAC rules. Rule clarifications. So during the season, as it goes along, if the MAC board feels we need to clarify or change a rule, you will get an email from me to all the coaches letting you know about any potential changes or clarifications. When we send out those clarifications, you will get the message right then and there saying this is how this is how we're going to make the thing and when it will be effective. So uh, uh, yeah, it says here effective immediately, depending on the rule, but majority of the clarifications are effective immediately. Okay. Moving along, 2026 rule changes. So these are some things that are very important to understand. If you played last year, these are some of the rules that are different from the MAC League for this year. The first one, after the schedule is released, if a team is unable to play on that scheduled date, they can work with the coach of the opposing team to propose a new date. If the two coaches cannot reach an agreement, the original date is going to stand. And if you cannot play in the original date, you would end up forfeiting. So the goal is that if everybody plays the game, so try to do your best to work with the other coaches. But if you guys just can't reach an agreement, then it will go down as a forfeit. All right. Towns are allowed and recommended to use a double safety bag at first base. So it's not required for 2026. It will be required in 2027. The reason we're doing this is because high school across the entire country is moving to double bags. I think they actually moved to it this year, but if not, it's next year. And we're trying to get all of our kids to be prepared and ready for that in the earlier level, in the recreational level. Okay. One of the new rules from Babe Ruth this year, much to my chagrin, is at the start of any extra innings, a runner is now placed on second base, and the runner will be the last recorded batter of the previous inning. So this is the rule that came from Babe Ruth, and the MAC League decided to leave it as is. So just keep that in mind for any extra innings. Additionally, solid one-piece wood bats are permitted for use in all divisions. So that's been a rule for a long time. However, it wasn't specifically called out, and there was a bunch of questions last year about it. So I want to make sure everyone aware is that you can use wood bats without any questions. And then there are significant rule changes to the playoffs this year. So we will walk through them. Jason, I'll go over the forfeits. I think it's 6-0, but I have a spot. We'll go through that. So there are significant changes for the playoffs rules this year. It's more administrative changes because based on if anybody was on the league last year, you saw the craziness that happened with people just forfeiting and giving up and then reseeds and all the other craziness that happened last year. We basically ruled all of that out so that the stuff in place so we don't have to deal with any of the craziness that we dealt with last year. All right. Moving on. Protests. There are no protests in the MAC League. Whatever decision, good or bad, is made solely by the umpires, and it is final. So you can't call a league official from the field. Don't be on the field, be upset about something, and call me. Don't call your league president. Don't call your directors. They can't do anything at the field when your game's going on. When you're at the field, the umpire is the sole person that makes the decisions. He could be completely wrong, and that happens because they're human. If they're wrong, they're going to play with the rules that they know for that game, and then we will correct them after the game, and it will be fixed for the next game. But whatever happened that particular game, the umpire is going to make the final call. So you can talk to them, help them through asking about some of the rules, but if it is what it is at the field, and the umpire is going to make the final decision. Don't go waving rule books at them. Don't go do any of that stuff. All you're gonna do is piss them off. And when you make an umpire upset, you're not going to be getting the rest of the game going the way you want. I promise. So be nice to the umpires. All right. Player participation and call-ups. So every team needs to field at least 8 players within 15 minutes to start game, or else it would be a forfeit. So Jason, here's what you're looking for. Forfeits are entered into the MAC site as a 6-0 victory for the non-forfeiting team. For here, we've got juniors levels, so you will be able to call up players from the majors and majors A teams, and you'll be able to call them up with the rules that your individual towns have for your call-ups. as far as what the rules for the MAC has for the call-ups. Your call-ups are allowed to pitch, but their pitch counts get counted against their original team. So if you bring up a kid from Majors A that's expecting to pitch for his team tomorrow, and you're going to make him pitch tonight, and you just screwed over the other team, that is exactly what will happen. He will not be able to pitch for his team if you pitch him for yours. Okay? Call-ups should be put at the bottom of the order. They're considered fillers to be able to have the game. So not there to make your team better. They're there to make it so you can play. Call-ups must play the minimum 6 defensive outs, but otherwise a roster player should not be sitting while a call-up player is in the field. So if you can have up to 10 players sitting there, but if you're a call-up player should not be in the field while you've got rostered players sitting on the bench. They have to be in the field for 2 innings to make it a legit game, and then they come out and they sit on the bench unless there is an emergency where they're needed to come back in. So the roster players always get priority. Now, if you're down to 8 players, obviously they're going to be in every inning, but that's how it will go. Yep. So that's really the rules on call-ups. Moving along, games and scoring. So no new inning can start 2 hours and 30 minutes after the official start of the game as determined by the umpire, not the official scheduled time. So remember that if the game starts 10 minutes early, that's when the clock starts. If it starts 10 minutes late, that's when the clock starts, and the umpire keeps tabs on the official start time. Umpires, in collaboration with the 2 head coaches, make the call to stop play for the time limit due to weather or darkness. So remember that before a new inning starts, and if it starts to seem like it's getting dark, start talking to the other coach and the umpire as soon as you can. All 3 of you need to make the decision. That way you're not starting an inning you don't think you can finish. Because if you start an inning you can't finish, everything gets rolled back to the last completed inning. Okay? So make sure you work together with them. The home team needs to pay the umpire before the game and provide at least 2 game balls. And in playoffs, both teams pay half the umpire fee. So this is really important. The second part here, in the playoffs, both coaches, the home and the away team, bring half the price of the umpires to the field. So if you are, well, we're not, it's not our home game, we don't have to pay. That's not how it works. So if you'll need 2, if say it's the championship game and there's 2 umpires, that's $200. Each head coach brings $100 and pays the umpires. Each one would pay one of them. If it's like first round and there's only 1 umpire, each head coach brings $50 and they both pay the same umpire $50. Okay. There's no run limits in Babe Ruth, so you can score as many up to mercy rules. Speaking of mercy rules, victory must be conceded to the winning team if, at the end of the 4th, one team has a lead of 15. Got to fix the writing on that. 15 runs or more. At the end of the 5th, the end of the 5th inning, or the end of the top of the 5th inning, if the home team's ahead, one team has a lead of 8 runs or more. And during the bottom of the 5th, if the home team goes up by 8, the game is immediately conceded. Score at the time the mercy rule is applied is what's reported on the website. So sometimes people say, yeah, it was a mercy. Let's just keep playing. It got done really early. Okay. Whatever it was, the moment the mercy was called, that's the final score. Whether you guys keep playing after that is up to you, but that's the moment that the scoring gets reported. And then both teams can report the game results on the MAC site within 24 hours of the game. It's really important you do that within 24 hours. I strongly recommend you do it in the parking lot before you leave the field. The MAC website works very well for this on your phone. So you can go into your phone and put in your pictures. You can put in the score right in the parking lot before you leave, assuming you have cell coverage. It'll save you a lot of headaches. It'll save everybody a lot of headaches because the worst thing we have to do is go chase people. And if you don't put in your pitches, the pitch counts, things will all get screwed up. Moving down, games not played. So games should only be rescheduled due to weather, not lack of players or coaches' conflicts. I know this is a little bit conflicting to what I said earlier, but the reality is we don't want to reschedule games unless it's weather. The weather in the springtime weather in New England sucks. It's as simple as that. It's going to rain. It's going to rain a lot. We're going to get a lot of rain. So keep that in mind. So try to keep the game unless you really have to reschedule the games. Okay. And they should be rescheduled as close to the original date as possible. Okay. This one is really important. Sometimes some like, oh, we'll reschedule it, and you wait to the end of the season, and then just the weather gets bad or you get no fields. Wait, make sure you reschedule it within a couple of days of the original game. So really, really try hard to do that. Okay? Home team's responsible for determining whether the field is playable, and they must contact the opposing coach and umpire no sooner than 2 hours prior to a game time if it's canceled. When I say no sooner than 2 hours, that means if the game starts at 5:45, do not cancel the game before 3:45. Okay. Why do we say that? Very simple. The weather in New England changes on a dime. It can be pouring all day long, and then starting at 2 o'clock, the sun could come out beautiful. The fields are available to play. It happens every single year. So I see people cancel games, and then the sun comes out, and the fields are beautiful, and the field no game is going on, and everyone's at home going, "Crap! Why did we cancel?" So wait as long as you possibly can before you cancel those games for weather. Okay. Um, Games are official after 5 innings, 4.5 the home team's ahead. Games postponed before the end of the first inning get completely restarted. Games postponed after the first inning will be resumed upon the stoppage of play. Exactly where you left off, and you go exactly. Everybody goes back to the exact same spots. Players on bases, outs, pitch count, everything. Okay. Last one I really like to mention: if lightning occurs, play is stopped until there's no further lightning observed for at least 15 minutes. Okay? If either the head coaches or the umpire sees lightning, any of the three can put the game on temporary hold. Additionally, anytime the game is delayed, will be added to the max time limit for the game. It's important that you realize that it's just the two head coaches and the umpire. The last thing anybody wants to hear is parents screaming, "I saw a lightning bolt all the way over there. The game has to get put on pause." That ain't going to work. The umpire or one of the two head coaches has to see it. Okay. I know it might sound counterintuitive, but we've got parents that if they saw a blink from 30 miles away or it's on their phone, lightning, 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 cancel, cancel, doesn't happen. So just keep that in mind. So the other thing I want to just call out here on the lightning delays, make sure you tell your parents it's a delay and not a cancellation. It's really important. The reason for that is because we've seen in the past where parents see, oh, it's raining, there's some lightning, they take their kid and just leave. If 15 minutes go by, there's no more lightning, and the game gets resumed, and you do not have enough players at the field to continue playing, and you drop under 8, you end up forfeiting. Okay? So you don't want to make sure you tell your parents, do not leave until you get the game canceled communication from you. So that's really, really important. I've seen it happen multiple times, and teams ended up having to forfeit because of it, and they were not happy. So talk to your parents and make sure that you're in sync with them. All right, pitching. All junior level players are considered league age 13 for pitch count purposes. So we use the MLB Pitch Smart guidelines, which dictates the max number of pitches per day and the minimum number of days of rest before pitching. These are the days that we use, and these are what is automatically calculated for you inside the MAC website. So you'll be able, once you go in at the end of your game and you put in Johnny pitched 36 pitches, it will tell you the next day he can pitch, and it will make that available to all the coaches. So your next team will be able to see which players on your team are unavailable to pitch. Okay? Things to keep in mind: how the rest days work. If a player throws 36 pitches on a Tuesday, that means they are sitting in the 2-day rest category. That means they can't pitch again until Friday. So Wednesdays and Thursdays would be the 2 rest days. That's how the Pitch Smart guidelines work. That's how the MAC League works. Okay. Couple things that always get asked: you cannot finish a batter and go into the next day's rest category. If your pitcher is at 35 pitches in the middle of an at-bat, pull them out, because if they go to 36, they now have 2 days rest instead of 1. Okay, you cannot finish a batter and stay in the same bracket. Whatever their final number is, that's their rest. So just keep that in mind. However, the one thing that you can finish a batter on is when they've hit their max pitches for a day. So in this particular group, the daily the daily max is 95 pitches. If normally when you hit 95, you have to come out, but if you're in the middle of an at bat, when you're at hit 95, you can finish that batter and then they have to get pulled out. And you're already at the max rest there, so they'd be on a 4-day rest anyway. So, um, so the other important thing, league age 16-year-olds are not allowed to pitch in the juniors division. So if you have 16-year-olds on your team, they're not allowed to pitch. Only 13 to 15-year-olds are allowed to pitch in MAC juniors. All right, some more stuff on pitching. We recommend you use Game Changer. That's where you should be tracking all of your pitchers on a tool like that. You are allowed to use a manual counter. If you are using a manual counter, I strongly suggest you talk to the other coaches between innings and make sure that your numbers match. At the end of the day, who's ever using the electronic solution, that's the one that's going to matter. That's the one that's going to count at the end of the day. So if Game Changer says that your player has 36, but you only click 35, they've got 36. So make sure you work with the other coach throughout the game. And I strongly recommend using Game Changer. It's free and it makes life a lot easier. Okay? During pregame, tell the umpire and the coaches any ineligible players. We do recommend that you track pitches for both your own as well as opposing pitchers and reconcile those counts between innings, like I was saying. I already talked about that. Enter pitch counts within 24 hours. Again, like I mentioned, I recommend you do it in the parking lot. New pitchers get 6 warm-ups. Returning pitchers get 4 between innings. Okay. If you go any more than that, it's going to delay the game too long. So keep it quick between innings. If a pitcher beans 4 players total in a game, they need to be removed from pitching for the remainder of the game. They just have to be removed as a pitcher. They can still bat. They can still play a different position. They just can't pitch for that game anymore. Okay? Coaches, you're allowed 1 mound visit per inning, and a second visit can only be to remove the pitcher. On batting, so we do allow on-deck batters at this age group if your field has a traditional on-deck circle. If not, designate a spot where they can be where they won't get killed. 13 and 14-year-old players are allowed, but they are not required to use the USA baseball bat. Everybody else has to use a BB core. There's USSA bats are not legal in this league, so make sure your players aren't using them. If you have kids that play travel, they probably have a USSA bat. Make sure they don't use their travel bats for this program. I recommend if you have a 13 to 14-year-old, try to get them to a BB core as soon as you can, because a 13, 14-year-old hitting at this age level, that USA baseball bat ain't getting out of the infield. So it's the sooner you can get them on a BB core bat, the better. Obviously, the size of the kid matters, so but try to get them to the bigger bats as soon as you can. Few things we wanted to note: if a batter has contact with the ball with a foot outside the batter's box, they will be called out. And any player throwing a bat or helmet with malice will be giving a warning for the first offense. Second offense will require ejection from the game. And an umpire can eject in the first offense if they think it's egregious enough in their opinion. Okay. I don't know how many times I've seen teenagers get pissed off, take their helmet and huck it at the dugout as hard as they can. If it's the first time they do it, they're probably going to get a warning. If they throw it in the vicinity of another player, they're probably going to get ejected. So try to keep your players calm in those situations. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a teenager throw a helmet. It's absurd. So try to keep them under control. Base running. There's no limits on how many base runners may advance on errors. We do have a no contact rule, so a slide or avoid rule is in effect. It's mandatory that base runner slides or avoids when there's an imminent play at the second or third base or home. The base runner, at their sole discretion or judgment of the umpire, should be called out for not sliding or avoiding if contact is made. So if they don't slide, umpire could call them out. Umpires should make the best determination if they think it's warranted. Sometimes it's not really warranted and the umpire will make the best decision. But your best bet is to tell your players, if there's going to be a play at that plate, make sure you're sliding. Okay. You can head first slide. You can lead. All balks on pitchers, they're given a single warning per game, and then normal balk rules apply. Um, if there are 2 outs, a courtesy runner for a catcher should be used so they can get ready for the next inning. If you decide to use a courtesy runner for a catcher, it has to be the person who made the last out. Okay. Base stealing, balls always live. The limit on the base, no limit on number of steals per inning. Stealing of home on pass balls is permitted. Basically regular baseball. Infield fly rule. So applies when runners on first or second bases loaded with less than 2 outs. A fly ball in the infield can be caught with ordinary effort. The umpire will call infield fly and the batter is out regardless of whether the ball is caught. Ball is still live. Runners can advance at their own peril. The last one is very important to note. The umpire must call infield fly immediately when the ball is in the air. If they do not call it while it's in the air, the play runs as a normal play. So once a player touches the ball or it hits the ground, if the infield rule was not called by the umpire, it's a regular play. So keep that in mind. We have a lot of umpires that don't tend to call this properly or will miss it. Or I've had umpires after the play was done, they're like, no, that was an infield fly. You can't play it that way because you screw up your players, you screw up your runners, all sorts of things could have happened. So if they don't call it, you just run it as a straight play as if it was a pop-up fly to the infield. Drop third strike. Batter can run to first base if the base is unoccupied. I'm not going to read through all of this here. The last one I do want to note, as soon as a player steps out of the dirt circle, they will be called out on a drop third strike. It's effectively if they're heading back to the dugout. They didn't realize it was a drop third strike. They gave up on it and they started to walk back towards the dugout. As soon as they step out of the dirt and onto the grass, they're called out. If they're still in the dirt and then they go, oh crap, it was a drop third strike, they can still turn around and run to first. So you'll typically hear all of your players screaming, drop third, go run, run, run. If the batter realized it before he steps in the grass, he can turn around and run. He steps in the grass, he's done. Umpires is scheduled by the home league. One patch umpire is needed at junior levels. They're paid $100 before the game starts. Make sure you notify your umpires of any schedule changes. For playoffs, championship game and the semifinal games will require 2 patch dumps, the same rate as the regular season. All other tournament games require 1. And as I mentioned earlier, in the playoffs, both coaches bring half the cost of the umpires to every game. So please try to remember that one. Every year, we always have a visiting team coach forget, and then we have to play the game of trying to chase down the money. All right. Quick notice on some stuff on sportsmanship. So when any player, coach, or spectator raises their voices, argue with an umpire, the umpire will call over both coaches, and the coaches will issue a warning to the offending person. If the behavior continues, then the umpire will call over. I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but you can see it all in here. This is to the point of when it gets ejected. So we do expect and encourage kids that chant and get loud cheering for their teammates during teams at bats. The chants cannot be negative towards the other team. And chanting or cheering is not the same as screaming. So, and once a pitcher starts his windup, all noise must stop. No more screaming, no more cheering. Let them do their thing. We ask you to be patient with the umpires. Any umpire issues you have, please bring it to the attention of the local MAC League rep. We'll handle the issues with the umpires. Try not to get adversarial with the umpires. It's not a good scenario. Some information on the fields. Make sure you understand the safety rules of the fields that you're visiting. Their rules, regardless of the MAC League or your local town rules, take precedent. So this is important to remember. Not that we're in a COVID situation or anything like this anymore, but let's say that a town that you're visiting has certain rules about you can't do X. Then when your team gets to that field, you have to follow that rule. And if you don't follow that rule, you won't be allowed to play at that field. So just keep that in mind. The other things you want to be really important of, Almost all fields do not allow dogs. I strongly recommend you tell all of your parents at the beginning of the season, leave the pets at home. Don't take your dogs to the field. Um, it's never a good scenario. The way the umpires are handling it now, the way it's handled now, instead of the police getting involved for a dog showing up at a field that's not allowed, the umpires will now put a game on hold until the animal's been removed from the grounds. So everybody will sit there and wait until that dog is removed. So try to remember to tell all your parents, keep the dogs at home. Okay. Um, General things, all the fields are no smoking, no vaping, no chewing tobacco, drug use, no alcohol. Um, and the last thing that I'm going to really call out, treat all the fields that you go to as if they're your own. Okay. When you're at the end of the game, clean up your dugout. Okay. Don't make the hometown that just hosted you have to go clean up your mess. Go clean the bleachers where your families were sitting and make sure they picked up all the trash. So leave your field as you guys are guests when you arrive at someone else's field. Take care of it as you would take care of your own field. All right, let's walk through the website and I'll show you how to track scores and reschedule games and those fun things. All right, give me 1 second. All right. This is the Max League's website. If you don't know what this is macleague.org. Everybody here should have received an invite to your team. If you did not receive your invite for your team, please email me and I will get an invite over to you for your team. Okay. A few things that are important to show on the website. First one is under About is our facilities. If you click on this guy, you'll see a list of every single field across all the different towns and their addresses. And if you click on any one of them, it'll bring you directly to Google Maps with the link of how to get to that field. So that's the easy way to remember there. I like to show this just because it's fun. The Wall of Fame. We do keep track of all of our winners from previous years. So for last year, Bolton Lancaster won the Junior Babe Ruth. So we keep track of the players and we try to keep this stuff out there for long term. It's a fun way to look back over the years and see who's won. Before I go into the team, I'm going to go into here under resources. You're going to see a handful of different things here. The first thing that's important is the general rules. General rules, these are more of the administrative rules about rescheduling games and stuff like that. They're common across all of our divisions. And then more specifically is the Babe Ruth rules. These are the rules that you guys will use to go through for your season. I can click on that. All the rules are listed here. This comes up really nice and easy on your phone if you need to bring it up. Anything you see in red is net new for this year. We went through those earlier. Anything you see that's in blue like this, that's a change from the previous division. So you can kind of see what's different from your previous divisions. The next thing I want to go through is the playoff rules. So playoff rules for this year. So there's a few things that we had to clarify after last year's debacle. So the website does not have a way to determine forfeit loss. So forfeits will just be 0 points regarding if it's a forfeit loss or a regular forfeit. So just keep that. Yeah. Forfeit losses will not be able to be used. Normally that would be a 1 point loss. So forfeits are just going to be 0 across the board. We had a question last year on the head-to-head. So if there's more than 2 teams tied by points, unless their team is undefeated against all other teams, the metric skipped and moved to the next category. Other big one, if the number of games played is equal, the total number of runs will be used as a tiebreaker. The number of games played is unequal, the average number of runs per games will be used. We had a problem last year where the teams didn't play the same number of games because of rainouts, and it unbalanced the numbers. The next ones are important. Once the final seedings are announced, they are final, regardless of any errors. So if there's an error determined post-release, it can be brought to the MAC board's attention, who will do a majority vote to make any changes to the seeding. All right. So the goal is not to make any changes, but if there's something egregious that we found that was a huge mistake, the board will have to vote to make that change. Okay. The playoff schedule will be released by the league. If a team cannot field enough players, they can request the coach of the opposing team to move the game to a date prior to the next date scheduled by the league. Pitch count rules will not be adjusted for moved games and must be accounted for by the coaches. If both teams do not agree to a new date, the original date will stand, and the team who cannot field enough players will be required to forfeit the game. So keep this in mind. So you're going to get, chances are the schedule will probably come out one Monday, Wednesday, Friday for the games. So if you can't get Monday's game in, it's got to be played Tuesday. That's how it's going to end up working, unless there's bad weather for 2 straight days, and then the MAC League will make a decision on it. If a team, this is a big one from last year, if a team forfeits a game less than 48 hours prior to the schedule's start, the bracket will proceed as planned. If a team forfeits more than 48 hours in advance, the MAC board by majority vote will determine if a reseed should happen. So this is important. Last year we had some teams that just said, screw it, we're not even going to bother playing. We're not going to win anyway. So they skipped their playoff game. And technically it went down as a forfeit, and it screwed up all sorts of stuff. And people were demanding reseeding because of it. And this is now the rule going forward and how we handle it. It's pretty well laid out, we think. So we'll see how it goes. All right. These are the rules. So under teams here, you're going to see all of your different teams. So juniors is all the way up here in the top right. There's all the teams. They're all pre-built, ready to go for you. These are the ones you should have been invited for. I'm going to jump to, I created a couple of test teams in the senior division so that I can walk through different things with you. So I'm going to do that now. So when you come into your team, you're going to see something that looks like this. You should see your name down here in the bottom right if you accepted the invite to your team. If your name is not listed there, that means you did not accept your team invite, or you set your privacy stuff wrong. If you believe that you accepted your invite and it's still not there, if you click on settings, I'm not going to see it because I'm not logged in as a coach here. There'll be a box here that says privacy. Make sure for your privacy settings for this, you set it to public for phone and email. If you don't put public phone, email, then the other coaches cannot see your contact information and they'll never be able to get in touch with you. So this is the only way that other coaches can find you and communicate when they need to. All right. Some of the other buttons on here are staff. So you have the option here of hitting plus staff member. So if you've got assistant coaches you want to add to your team, you can hit this. You can put their email address in, put whatever their role is, it doesn't matter. And then it will send them an invite to the team, and then they will have the same access that you have, which would allow you to enter scores and put in pitch counts and reschedule games. Okay. All right. So if you click on roster, all of your players should already be in the system. Assuming that your league gave me all of your rosters, which they were supposed to have, all of your players should be listed here. Please do not hit this button to make changes to add or remove players, or if your roster isn't there, don't add it yourself. This will screw up the pitch count system. If you need to make any changes to your roster, please send me an email and I will fix it for you. What you can do is you can hit the edit button and you can add their jersey numbers in here. That's something you can do. So feel free to do that and hit save. Okay. You can click on games here, and this will show you your entire schedule for the season. You can click on Pitch Smart, and this is going to show you all your players if they're currently eligible, and if they're not eligible, when their next eligible date that they can play is. And let's see, games. Yeah, so the next important thing is there's 2 things here that are important when you go to your schedule. when it's time to enter your score and pitch count. So to enter your score and pitch count, you're going to come in here and you're going to hit score. I didn't set up the test teams correctly. So you should also you should see the thing to put the scores in like this. You should also see a list of your players to be able to put in their pitch counts right here on the same screen. So you would just put the current score, put whoever pitched, how many pitches they pitched, and hit save score, and it will update everything automatically. So you guys should see the pitch count stuff in there, and then once you put that in there, it will automatically update here, and then you'll be good to go. Remember, both coaches, home and away, need to enter their pitch counts, so you both have to go in and hit the button for that. Okay? The other option you have here is the button that says reschedule. So assuming you and another coach agreed to move a game, you can come in and say, I want to move this game, hit reschedule. First thing is the reason for request. Pick whatever reason you have, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. It's just a data point. The change type is more important. I'm going to start at the bottom. The first option here is cancel. If you put cancel, which you shouldn't do because we don't cancel games, this will completely delete it from the schedule. Try not doing this. Postpone. If the game got canceled because of weather and you haven't picked a new date yet, just come in and pick postpone and you'll have the ability to come in and reschedule it again after. The more common one is to hit reschedule. Once you hit reschedule, you'll come in here. You'll be able to give a reason for why the game's being rescheduled. Pick your proposed date, time, the duration, and whatever field it's going to be played at. Okay. Hit save. Once you hit save, this does not automatically move the game. An email will now get sent to the other coach of the opposing team, and they will see the request and they have to accept your proposed change. Once they accept it, it will send me a message to say to approve the game in the system. I've never not approved a game. It's just that's how it requires both coaches and then me to hit the final button, and then the game will officially be moved on the schedule. Does that make sense? I hope, maybe. But it is a relatively easy process. It's the same process we used last year. So hopefully if you were here last year, you are familiar with how it works and you won't run into any problems. All right. That's really about all I have. So now I'm going to open it up for questions. What things can I help answer? Can I show you something on the website? What can I help with?
I just have one question, Keith. So the runner on second rule, does that apply to playoffs as well?
Yeah.
Okay. That's unfortunate.
I voted against having that rule.
Yeah.
So it is not one that I think is right, but is what it is. Yeah. Other questions? Quiet.
No, I just want to make sure everybody understands because I've seen emails. Like if there's game schedules, conflicts or stuff like that, coaches can talk to other coaches to change any necessary dates, times, correct?
Yeah, that's why we added the extra 2 weeks so that if you have more room to move things around. We know that a lot of these kids are also playing high school, maybe middle school ball, depending on what age, where they are in the range. So we'll be a little bit more flexible with moving games around, and so we gave the extra 2 weeks buffer there. Try not to use the buffer if you can, but if you can, if you need to use it, it's there. But yeah, coaches can work together to move games around. All the games today are scheduled during the week. However, coaches can put them on the weekends if that's better for the coaches. You guys make the decision on what works for you. Early morning weekends, late weekends, whatever the coaches want to do, you guys can feel free to move it wherever you can get a field and you can get the right teams.
I was going to bring up the same thing, as long as we're all on the same page, because I think only 2 of the games don't conflict with other games that my kids have for their JV teams and stuff. So pretty much am going to have to move all of them, except for two. So as long
Yeah.
as on the same page that we're going to have to move things around, then that's fine.
Yeah, it's pretty much expected that that a lot of games are likely going to have to get moved. So I do recommend you reach out to the other coaches as soon as possible. That way you can get that stuff cleared up. The reality is the moment you move a game, the middle school game is going to get rescheduled right on top of that reschedule that you just did. So 'cause
Yeah, no doubt.
that's
Yeah.
what happens every time.
Yep.
So yeah, but that's why we gave the extra 2 weeks so that there's that extra flexibility. I think those 2 week, I think that like the last 3 weeks, there's no high school games if I remember.
Correct.
Yeah. So
I have one more question too.
fire
Oh,
away.
my bird. So I know we have games scheduled for 5:45, but can this also be on the same preposition that coaches and other coaches say, hey, can we do a 6 o'clock? And I know the time frame and stuff like that, because I know, as everybody here knows, some kids are going to come in hot.
Yeah. I mean, if the coaches decide they want to switch it to 6 o'clock, go for it. I don't recommend it early season because you will never get more. You might not even get a full game in.
I get that.
So
But I just want to make sure everybody understands that is a possibility.
yep. Yeah. I mean, feel free to do whatever. If the two coaches can agree on a change, go ahead and make the change to whatever works best for you guys. So as it stands today, we set up the schedule. The schedule is set up and it's balanced so that there's days between every games and it's starting out as good as we could have made it. But the reality is things have to get moved and hopefully it doesn't just screw up the schedule too bad for putting games back to back or screwing up your pitchers. Yep. Other questions? Last call. All right, I'm gonna call it. Thank you everybody for joining. I appreciate it, and have a great season. If you have questions or anything like that, feel free to email me. Happy to help with that and answer any questions. You can also reach out to your league directors. They should have all the information for you as well. But you can always reach out to me whenever you need anything, and I'm happy to help out. So
Just one, I just see in chat here, I know Jason's mic wasn't working. I see, for rosters question mark. I think he might have a question.
what is the question, Jason?
I think his mic is broken.
Yeah, I remember you saying. So if your kids are not in there, that means that your town has not provided them on the master
So
spreadsheet.
Keith, didn't Jeremy contact you today?
Uh, did he?
I only said that because Jeremy contacted me earlier today just to make sure we're good.
I don't see an email from him.
I will ping him right now.
Yeah, if
No,
he,
yeah, I
yeah,
will.
yeah, if he hasn't yet, have him just update the spreadsheet with the names, then I'll get him loaded up.
Okay, I'll double check because he did ping me. I was at work. I'm like, nope, so.
Yeah, yeah, but
Oh, my bird. Sorry, I have a loud bird.
can't really hear it, so you're good. All right, it sounds like that's all we got. So thank you all. Have a great season, and again, hit me up with any questions you might have, and happy to help. All right,
Thank
take
you.
care, everybody.
Take care. Bye.
Bye all.